In an unexpected and dramatic turn of events, Donald Trump has won the 2024 presidential election, securing a second non-consecutive term in office. After a contentious and fiercely fought campaign, Trump emerged victorious against Vice President Kamala Harris, defying many predictions and political analysts who had expected the race to be a close call. With his victory, Trump will once again occupy the White House, after leaving office in 2021 following his tumultuous first term. The 2024 election was one of the most polarizing and heated in modern American history, with Trump and Harris representing two starkly different visions for the future of the country. Harris, running as the Democratic candidate, focused on unity, inclusivity, and progressive reforms. In contrast, Trump's campaign centered around a return to America First policies, focusing on securing the nation's borders, lowering taxes, and reasserting American strength on the global stage. Donald Trump's victory represents a remarkable political comeback after losing the presidency in 2020. His campaign strategy was built on a combination of economic populism, tough stance on crime and immigration, and a promise to undo what he called the failures of the Biden administration. In the face of widespread political and media opposition, Trump maintained a loyal base of supporters, particularly among working-class voters, rural Americans, and those disillusioned by the perceived elite political establishment. Trump's victory in 2024 was built on several key factors. First and foremost was his ability to consolidate the Republican base, which rallied behind him in large numbers. Despite controversies and legal challenges that have surrounded his post-presidential years, including multiple investigations and indictments, Trump was able to position himself as the candidate who would bring change, resist the woke left, and drain the swamp in Washington once and for all. His appeal to voters who felt alienated by what they saw as the failure of the political establishment resonated deeply across the country. Trump's message of economic revival, job creation, and tough law and order policies struck a chord with many working-class Americans who were dissatisfied with the status quo. His supporters credited him with overseeing a strong economy during his first term and believed he was the only candidate who could secure America's interests both domestically and internationally. The final weeks of the election were marked by intense campaigning from both sides. Harris, running as the first female and first woman of color to seek the presidency, faced strong opposition from Trump and his allies, who criticized her policies on immigration, healthcare, and crime. Harris's message of progressive reform, particularly on issues like climate change, healthcare, and racial justice, was met with resistance from many conservative voters who felt her agenda was too radical. Meanwhile, Trump focused on portraying Harris as part of a Washington elite that was out of touch with the needs of everyday Americans. He relentlessly criticized the Biden administration's handling of the economy, particularly inflation and rising gas prices, which were key issues that dominated the campaign. Trump also argued that the Democratic Party, under Biden's leadership, had failed to address rising crime rates and illegal immigration, issues he claimed were central to national security. In the final presidential debates, Trump's combative style, mixed with his ability to directly appeal to voters' frustrations, allowed him to sway undecided voters in critical swing states. His calls to restore American greatness and make the country safer and more prosperous were persuasive to many voters who felt the country had lost its way in recent years. Trump's path to victory was made possible by winning crucial battleground states, many of which had been considered up for grabs due to the political shifts since 2020. In states like Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin, where Democrats had traditionally been strong, Trump's populist appeal and tough-on-crime rhetoric helped flip these key swing states back to the Republican column. His victory in Florida and Ohio was decisive, and he managed to expand his margins in the rural areas that had been pivotal to his success in 2016. Despite Harris's strong performance in urban centers and coastal states, where her progressive policies found a more receptive audience, she was unable to overcome Trump's momentum in these battleground areas. Trump's message of economic renewal and national security won the day for many voters, particularly in industrial regions and rural parts of the country. In the final hours of election night, the race was called for Trump as results from Pennsylvania, Georgia, and Arizona tipped in his favor. The results confirmed what had seemed improbable in the months leading up to the election: the former president was back on top. With Trump's win, the nation now faces a new chapter under his leadership. As he takes office for a second term, there are several key issues that will likely dominate his agenda. Among them are his plans to secure the southern border, reimpose tariffs on foreign imports to strengthen American manufacturing, and overhaul the healthcare system to eliminate the Affordable Care Act, one of the major legislative achievements of the Obama administration. Trump's first term was marked by significant foreign policy shifts, including withdrawing from international agreements, such as the Paris Climate Accord and the Iran nuclear deal, and renegotiating trade agreements like NAFTA. His second term will likely see a continuation of these America First policies, with a renewed focus on confronting China's rise as a global superpower and reshaping U.S. relationships with NATO and other international allies. Domestically, Trump will face the challenge of managing an increasingly polarized electorate. His second term will be marked by deep divisions in the country, with many Americans still opposed to his leadership. Trump's legal issues, including ongoing investigations into his business practices and actions during the January 6th Capitol riot, are likely to remain a source of controversy and distraction. However, with a solid Republican majority in Congress, he will have the opportunity to push through key parts of his agenda, especially in areas like tax reform, healthcare, and federal judicial appointments. Trump's victory is a reminder of the deeply divided political landscape in the United States. For his supporters, it's a resounding affirmation of their belief that America needs to return to its roots and prioritize national interests over global cooperation. For his detractors, it represents a continuation of what they see as a regressive and dangerous path for the country, marked by divisiveness and a disregard for democratic norms. In the coming months and years, Trump will have to navigate a deeply divided nation. His victory, while historic, will not heal the political wounds that have plagued the country for years. The question of whether he can unite the nation or whether the divide will continue to deepen remains one of the biggest questions of his second term. Trump's presidency will likely be defined by his handling of both domestic and international crises, his attempts to reshape the political order, and his controversial approach to governance. Whether he can deliver on his promises and avoid the controversies that plagued his first term will determine his legacy. Regardless of one's perspective on his policies, it's clear that Donald Trump's return to power will have a profound impact on the direction of the country for years to come.